Longing for adventure out on the open seas? Sail Forth is a procedurally generated sailing game that features breathtaking scenery, cute characters, and fearsome pirates. To help explain the game a little better than we can, here's Sail Forth's solo developer, David Evans.
What was the process like of creating the visuals for Sail Forth?
Sail Forth is a chill roguelike about sailing and battling pirates. The water essentially drove the aesthetic of the whole game, and developing its look was a very iterative process. After staring at it for long periods of time while working on the game, I'd get annoyed by a particular detail and then spend hours tweaking it. I definitely had to make compromises when it came to the overall amount and detail of art in the game. As one person, I simply can't make as much content as a larger team can. And while I've learned a lot during this project, my skills as an artist is still fairly limited. Keeping the visual style simple and designing a game where the more expensive art pieces are separated by large expanses of water helped to keep the art demands reasonable.
Sail Forth's environments are procedurally generated. Are there unique weather conditions or creatures to discover in these environments?
The game uses a combination of procedural generation and handcrafted elements. Each biome has a palette of creatures, colors, environment pieces, etc., and it puts those together procedurally to make the levels. There's always at least one unique creature in every biome to spot and grab a photo of, which is a fun little side activity you can do while you're sailing to your next destination. Snowstorms and penguins are included, and a bunch more.
Can you tell us a little more about the physics behind the way the ships sail?
In the initial months of the project, I came across a paper that described a pretty simple way of approximating the forces on a sail for a given wind direction. I took that as a starting point, and then throughout the next 3 years, I endlessly tweaked it to get a nice balance between playable but believable physics. I like to refer to it as stylized realism. My primary goal in starting this project was to make a sailing game with a little more complexity than other games out there, without becoming a hardcore simulator. The boats sail loosely according to the real principles of sailing, but not to the point where you have to spend a tedious amount of time maneuvering. The game is going to ship with at least 12 playable boats, from small to large. Players can design the emblems shown on the flag and sails, which will also affect the fashion of their crew. As players progress, they can accumulate up to 5 boats in their fleet, which they can further customize with weapons and upgrades.
Are there other activities in Sail Forth outside of combat and exploration, like racing or fishing?
Having alternatives to combat was another thing that I knew I wanted in the game from the very start. I try to scatter lots of alternate activities throughout the world, such as racing and fishing. Some of the characters you meet will challenge you to races or have other small requests for help, and there are hidden items to find in some of the areas. The game will also include a free play mode, which allows for uninterrupted sailing without any danger or enemies, which I find to be a great way to relax.
Are there things you'd like to add to Sail Forth in the future?
I'm really interested in exploring alternate game modes and playstyles. I think I made a great toy, which is the sailboat, and I don't think that this is the only game that can be played with it. There could be really fun multiplayer opportunities, or even something more strategy focused. I'm trying not to think about it too much, or I'm going to become impatient with this initial release.
Finally, when is Sail Forth expected to release, and what platforms will it be available on?
There's no hard release date yet, but it's looking super likely that it's going to be out before the end of this year. The game will be a simultaneous launch on Steam for PC, Mac, and Linux, and then also on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One.
If you're eager to set sail, you'll be happy to hear that Sail Forth is expected to release sometime later this year. For the exact release date, follow @SailForthGame on Twitter and wishlist Sail Forth on Steam.